In 1981, SAP made an appearance at the Systems IT trade show in Germany in order to show off their new R2 software, making it possible for companies to manage resumes, human resources, and job applicants, all from the convenience of computers. The days of filing cabinets and applying to jobs in person had come to an end, and the era of online job boards and applicant tracking systems began. Within a decade, the dot-com boom completely changed the landscape of recruiting. Walking into businesses and applying was replaced by online job boards like Monster and Career Builder, allowing people to apply to jobs from anywhere in the world, and dramatically increasing the volume of candidates that any one job would receive. To manage this surge, dedicated ATS platforms like Taleo, iCIMS, and JobVite became wildly popular, in large part because they offered services like resume parsing, analytics, and candidate ranking. By the 2010s, SaaS companies moved ATS onto the cloud, allowing it to be integrated with new websites like LinkedIn and Indeed, and making it now more cost-effective to do all of your job hiring online than it was to do it through human resources in-house. And by 2020, most companies were now pairing their ATS with their own CRMs and AI machine learning in order to completely automate the entire job application process. ATS would now rank candidates, communicate with them through email chatbots, and automatically schedule their interviews, making it possible for another human being to have never seen your resume until the day you show up for your interview. For the sake of convenience and profit, corporate America set the entire job market on fire, leaving behind a bottomless void of unemployed, desperate, and ghosted job applicants, dragging millions of potentially qualified people into the trash bin, all because they did not create an ATS-optimized resume crammed full of keywords from the job description. For those of you who are new to the channel, I am a job market economist who has worked for the federal government, the private sector, and R1 public university since 2017. I've coached thousands of students, given hundreds of lectures, and taught several courses on career literacy in that time, which is not to brag at all, but to say that I think about the job market probably more than 99.99999% of people. So let me confirm something for you that you already know. It sucks. It is so insanely demoralizing to apply for a job in the United States today. And job seekers know this, but they typically don't have the language or the economic expertise in order to really understand both what's going on and what they can do to fix it. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to break down the nuances of why online job boards don't work most of the time, and several different things that you or your loved ones can do to land relevant and hopefully well-paying work in today's economy. And it's a lot to go over, so please be sure to like this video and subscribe if you are new, and let's just get right into it. This last March, which is our most recent data, there were 7.2 million job openings in the United States, 5.4 million of which ended up being filled. According to the best research that we have, only about 1/3 of those jobs end up getting filled by public online job boards like Indeed or LinkedIn. And when we look at the people who apply, only about 3% end up getting brought in for an interview. And then of those brought in for an interview, about 48% of them actually end up getting the job, which makes sense. Now, there are about 20 million Americans applying for jobs at any given time, including both unemployed people and currently employed people. Job seekers submit an average of 50 resumes per month, which multiplied by 20 million job seekers comes out to an average of a clean 1 billion job applications submitted in the United States every single month. So let's do some math. Roughly 1 billion applications were submitted in March, and 5.4 million people ended up getting hired. Of that 5.4 million who were hired, 36% of them came from public online job boards. So that means that, looking purely at conservative statistical odds, the likelihood that a single resume submitted to a public online job board will lead to you getting hired is 0.19%, or 1 in every 514 resumes. It is easier to max rate shiny hunt in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet than it is to land a job through Indeed in America. But that paints an extremely grim picture, and is admittedly not the most academically honest way to look at this problem. But I want you to hold that 1 in every 514 in your mind for a moment, because we're gonna come back to it later. The truth is that average of 50 applications being submitted by every job seeker every month is absolutely being skewed by bots and unserious job seekers. Anytime that Google, NASA, Apple, or really any company with name recognition posts a job, thousands of unqualified people will apply to it simply because they're shooting their shot because they want to work for that company. Even my office gets hundreds of applicants every time that we post a job because people simply want to work at the university, whether they're qualified for that job or not. And then you've got bots. Some people will see those 1 in 514 odds and think, great, all I need to do is have a Chrome extension bot submit 500 job applications for me on Indeed, and then I'm good to go, baby. But on top of being extremely smooth-brained behavior, this is also where the problem of the dead internet theory kicks in. Because online job boards just become this vicious cycle where people are mass submitting applications through Chrome extension bots, and then those applications are getting auto-rejected by ATS bots. It's a lot like Neon Genesis Evangelion. Not because robots are fighting each other, but because your dad hates you and you're forever alone. But herein lies the problem. In my view, there are really only 3 possible solutions to this moving forward. The first solution is that we simply embrace the chaos, that we make AI bot optimization the primary way that people apply for and are selected for jobs. This is probably what those tech bros who make HR software want to see happen. But the problem with that solution is twofold. First and foremost, the population is just not educated or tech savvy enough in order to do this well. And we see this already. Because ATS optimization requires baseline critical thinking, literacy, and self-marketing skills. Skills that a lot of the seniors I teach in college don't even have yet. Probably 2/3 of the time that I have this conversation with a student, you can see that it goes in one ear and out the other. Too many people have this dysfunctional belief where they think that their awards and their degrees should speak for themselves, and then they end up self-sabotaging themselves when, say, writing a resume. But that's a whole other video. The other problem with this solution is that ATS just isn't fair. Workday is facing a collective action lawsuit right now because so many people believe that their ATS is actively discriminating against candidates. Amazon had to scrap their old ATS because it was proven to be downvoting resumes that had the word women in it. Because ATS is trained off of previous hires, it optimizes for people who are like those already at the company, which punishes creativity, makes it impossible to get hired with a non-traditional resume format, and rewards practices like keyword cramming at the expense of using context, merit, and transferable skills to assess a potential hire. You know, something that human beings are already pretty damn good at. So that brings us to our second possible solution: tech regulation. Trust me, I know, every American who heard that is already laughing, because we have never had ethical tech regulation in this country. Our politicians are too old, our tech CEOs are too greedy, and the general population is just too apathetic to push laws that help make tech and hiring fair. So I just don't personally see good ATS regulation going through. I would love to be proven wrong, but I'm not holding my breath. So the third solution that I see is also one that I'm seeing a lot of already frustrated companies move towards, and that's rehumanizing the hiring process. And is probably the biggest opportunity that Americans have in order to land meaningful, relevant, and high-paying employment in their target industry in 2025. Okay, now I know that sounds like some woo-woo shit, so let me be perfectly clear. When I say rehumanizing the hiring process, I'm talking about leaning into those activities that we used to do before online job boards even existed, circa 1980. We're talking about networking events, having full-time recruiters, doing job trials, revamping internship pipeline programs, going to college career fairs, using your local workforce services, in many ways outright rejecting modernity and returning to monkey. But if you're chronically online, you're probably a bit skeptical of me saying this. One, because return to the past movements literally never work, and like, trust me, I hear you on that one. But also because you could easily point at me and say, wait a minute, this guy's a biased shill. He works for a university, so of course he wants people convinced that career fairs are effective because he wants more companies to pay to recruit at his school, and he wants more students to enroll at his university as a result of them being convinced that college is a viable pathway to employment. And honestly, yeah, a little bit. But I also work for a state school, so unless you are a 17-year-old in my state, I get nothing whatsoever out of trying to convince you on this. The main reason I'm saying it is because I literally analyze the job market for a living, and this is what we are seeing companies move toward. And the data really speaks to it too, considering that only 1/3 of jobs are getting filled by these online job boards right now, a number that's probably even lower for full-time salaried positions. The rest of it, the so-called hidden job market that people like to talk about, is really just being done through human-centric hiring, and is way more statistically likely to actually pay off for you than trying to brute force your way into the professional workforce through Chrome extension bots. So here's how you take advantage of it. First and foremost, recruiters. There are at least 200,000 people working in talent acquisition across the United States, so take advantage of them. The easiest way to find them is to go onto a company's page on LinkedIn, going into the People tab, and literally typing in the word recruiter or talent acquisition, hitting enter, narrowing it to your geographical region, and then finding whichever person is the most active on LinkedIn and reaching out to them. And then just let them know what your context and intentions are. Say something like, "Hi, my name is Brian, and I'm a senior studying marine biology at Oregon State, and I'm very interested in role at company and would like to know if there's anything else I can do in order to be an effective candidate." Or, better yet, apply first and then reach out to them on LinkedIn to let them know that you applied. This isn't going to guarantee you an interview, but at the very least, it can help ensure that you're not going to get auto-deleted by their ATS system. If you are a normal human being like the rest of us, and you don't have the power of nepotism on your side, then recruiters need to become your best friend. Now, if the company's not on LinkedIn, then the next best way to find their recruiters, assuming they're not in the directory, is to look up hiring events that company goes to. Typically, when there's something like a public job fair, the organizers will list the name of the companies and the email addresses of the recruiters who attended. So that can be a really effective way too to reach out to that company. And that leads us to career fairs. If you are a college student or if you are at a trade school, then statistically speaking, career fairs are your most viable pathway into the professional workforce. According to the best surveys we have on hiring in the United States, 91% of companies use career fairs in order to hire their entry-level full-time salaried staff. For better or worse, meaning that schools schools continue to hold a total monopoly over the entry-level job market. If you want to be a graphic designer, a teacher, an engineer, a pilot, etc., 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 then you are probably going to get your first big boy job at one of these events. Because if a company requires some type of degree, whether that's a traditional four-year degree, something from a trade school, or a technical certification, they're not going to bother posting on Indeed or LinkedIn in order to find entry-level professionals. They are going to take a couple afternoons out of the year, go directly to these events at these schools, and then have the schools quite literally spoon feed them interested, qualified talent. It's just the way that the job market works in America. Online job boards are just really bad for hiring entry-level jobs that require a degree. There are too many bots on these job boards, and their own ATS is not going to be good enough to look at the diversity of experiences that somebody can gain in college and accurately predict who will be a good candidate. So, at least when it comes to starting your career, career fairs really are your best bet. So here's what you do. Look at the event ahead of time, figure out which companies are the most relevant to your major and/or your career goals, print off a folder full of one-page resumes. Anything more is going to make you look like an unfocused dweeb. Take a shower, put on something professional, and go to the event. If you don't have the social skills, the self-awareness, or just the disposition to do something like that, then I really hope your Etsy shop takes off, man, because corporate America is just not for you. And by the way, just to reiterate the point, career fairs are also used by trade schools, community colleges, and technical schools in order to do professional placement into the industries that they partner with. They might call it something like an industry expo in order to sound a little more blue collar, but all of the same things that I just said equally apply. Now, if you're not a student, then definitely don't sleep on your state's workforce services. They have the best data on what jobs are available, how many are available, and how you can land those jobs in your area. And many smaller companies, especially in rural parts of the state, maintain a working relationship with workforce services. They have career coaches, resume writers, therapists, vocational rehab people, training program scholarships, and are the job market lifeblood of rural America. I know that workforce services gets a bad rap, but trust me, take advantage of it if you are not in school, and especially if you live in a rural area. If for no other reason than the fact that your taxpayer dollars are already paying for it. Another thing that I'm seeing a lot more companies do that I wish more people would take advantage of are internship pipeline programs. Obviously, most of these are focused on college, but there are internship pipeline programs open to both high schoolers and just community members out working in the world who don't have a degree. If you don't have directly related experience, then this is the most effective way to really bolster your resume and get your foot in the door into a target industry. And the good news is that almost all internships are paid nowadays because of legal interpretations of the Fair Labor Standards Act. Just go onto the company website, see what the baseline qualifications for, and honestly, and I'm gonna sound like a total hypocrite here for a second, even if you don't meet all of those qualifications, apply anyway. Job descriptions are often inaccurate and are really bad about asking for too much. And every year, companies repeatedly report that the person they actually hire for jobs on average ends up only having 50 to 70% of what they ask for in a job description anyway. So don't sell yourself short. Close that Indeed tab and update your job search strategy to include methods that actually work in 2025. You will save yourself hundreds of hours of applying endlessly into the void, and you will just end up much better off. I'll see you in the next one.